Now, this running back class doesn't nearly seem as good as last year's, but is that true? Well, we're going to go ahead and take a look at my season running back rankings for the 2022 NFL draft before I do my summer deep dive. What's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy, Broshmo, just in case you did not know so. And let's go ahead and get into the diggity gosh darn thing, starting with Breece Hall, man. I'm a big fan of Breece Hall. Last year, he was tied for the most, forced missed tackles last season for any of the 2022 prospects. He created the most positive gains despite, the blocking wasn't, or at least the run blocking wasn't entirely great last year. I mean, he made a special season on creating something out of nothing. I mean, a lot of his hits were behind the line of scrimmage, like that's where he was seeing first contact. I think he saw like over 50 carries. He was hit behind the line of scrimmage on first contact, which I think that was among like the top. So this guy is very good at creating something from nothing, very explosive. He does have that big play potential. Decent enough as a receiver, but drops were an issue. I have no first round grades on any run backs, no surprise. But Breece Hall, I definitely probably gonna have a second round grade. And I don't really think Isaiah Spiller is the only guy that really comes close to Hall in this class. These are, I think, easily the top two run backs in the class. And Spiller took a big jump in how he handles contact from 2019 to 2020, increasing his forced missed tackles by 16. On top of that, last year the offensive line was significantly better, and it should be pretty decent this year. I just love the way this guy moves. For 225 pounds, dude runs like he's 20 pounds lighter, man. He's very elusive in open space. When handling contact, I'd like it if he were to get a bit lower, but is what it is for now. We'll see how he does this year. Fumbles and drops were much higher than you'd like, but when we're talking about straight up ability, him and Hall are easily the top two in this class. And then Kyra Williams coming here at 3. I know a lot of people like him, but for me, especially based on his size, 5'9", 195, he feels like a bigger Demetric Felton who might test out better. That's what I'm kind of getting with Williams. I mean, the dude's got a huge receiving upside. By no means was he really the route runner Felton is, but he's a very good route runner in his own right for a running back, man. He took 22 snaps in the slot over his career. Just very athletic. Has some real breakaway speed. Very fluid movements, great acceleration. I will say his performance against top competition significantly dropped off compared to other opponents this year. I mean, he only had 2.85 yards after contact. He was averaging less than 2 forced missed tackles. And these were against Pittsburgh, Alabama, and then he had to face Clemson twice. 5 fumbles last year. You kind of worried. He hovered around that 10% drop rate. So there are some concerns there, but again, big step. He could make a big step forward, and I'm expecting a big step forward from Ty Chandler. He's a transfer from Tennessee, former 4-star recruit, and he just hasn't put it all together yet in a season. And you could honestly say, man, playing at Tennessee the passing game doesn't really help the running game there. But the dude faced a lot of stacked boxes, but over the last 4 years, really hasn't shown anything special yet. Never eclipsed 700 rushing yards in a season, but very secure with the ball. He's headed to a great situation with a very veteran offensive line in North Carolina, so we'll see. Jerrion Ealy was a guy I fell in love with kind of late recently, just because he's just a big play machine. He's only 5'8", 190, 190, but plays definitely bigger than he is. Very athletic, very elusive, former 4-star recruit, 7 forced missed tackles on 36 catches, 78 forced missed tackles on 250 carries through 2 seasons. He had 40 big-time runs last year on just 147 carries. We're going to keep this list going with, what is it? Zonovan Knight. Ooh, this guy is very interesting because he was 5th in most forced missed tackles last year with 48. And he's a very, I wouldn't say he like cuts on a dime necessarily, but he's a very patient, very sudden type of runner. He was elusive when he was able to bounce to the outside or if they were designing runs to the outside. But there at NC State, they ran a lot of inside zone, just a lot. So it'd be nice to see them try to, I want to see how, just considering how successful he was on the outside, I want to see maybe more of that incorporated. He has your basic running back route tree, so nothing to hate here. Mo Ibrahim, hopefully I didn't butcher that too bad. I'll have these names down by the end of the summer. But out of Minnesota, a lot of people really like him, but he probably should have came out last year. He's going to be an older prospect. He's going to be probably 24 around draft time, or at least by the beginning of his rookie season. But he's got good speed, good athleticism. He runs a lot of NFL run concepts there at Minnesota. They run a lot of inside, outside zone. Every team's incorporating zone now, so really zone blocking, even the Ravens. But didn't really have a high, like, forced missed tackle rate throughout his whole career. So I don't know. I'm going to have to deep dive a little bit harder into him just to see what the fuss is. Zamir White out of Georgia. This one's kind of a projection. I'm waiting for this guy just to break out. He's not very dynamic as a runner, but he's a former 5-star recruit. There's plenty of talent. Just needs to take that next step. Sincere McCormick at a UTSA, man. And we're playing with this guy on our NCAA franchise. If you haven't checked that out, check it out. It's been a fun time. That's not why he's this high on the list. I really fell in love with this guy. I've only watched probably a handful of his tape this past season, but he was tied for the most forced missed blocks or forced missed tackles in 2020. Great speed, great agility. He's also very willing to get physical if he has to. He's got the receiving upside. He just really wasn't used in that manner at UTSA. And I would say his breakaway speed is okay. There were instances where I was like, man, I'm surprised he got caught from behind. And then Kennedy Brooks, I honestly might put Kennedy Brooks a bit higher on my list. Like him opting out last year, I kind of forgot how really good he was, man. Like, I wouldn't really say he's fast. He's more quick than anything else. He's not really going to be a home run threat. But, man, 88 forced missed tackles on 274 carries. It's a pretty high rate. I'm just going to say it's a pretty high rate. He had the highest rate of 10-plus yard, He had the highest rate of runs for 10-plus yards in from 2018 to 2019, and those were back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. I think he does have a receiving upside. He just didn't have a lot of receiving snaps. He did align in the slot a few times, so I don't know, man. I think this year, like, come out if he balls out, I could see this guy being a bit higher on my list. And this is part of the video where I tell you to become a bro and subscribe. Leave that thumbs up if you enjoy the content. And leave a comment in the comment section below. Indulge in the nice, beautiful football discourse we got going on down there. We will be streaming later today, so be on the look for that. And then I got Brian Robinson Jr. out of Alabama. He's been a backup for 4 years straight. He's never eclipsed 500 yards in a season. He's a violent runner. No real speed to his game, though. He's not going to be breaking it away. Doesn't have Najee Harris's receiving upside. He had, last year? 41. Wait. Yeah, he had 41 runs that went for 10-plus yards. But the lawn was only 37. Oftentimes, he's getting caught behind. We'll see what happens in a full-time role. Couldn't move this guy a bit further because I'm coming around to Kevin Harris, man. I was watching him last night. He's got ideal size. No real receiving upside. But, man, he feels like Khalil Herbert, who I was also high on this past draft. Very good speed and acceleration for a back his size, man. It's pretty darn good, man. And last year was his first year as a starter. So, I'm eager to see more, man. He might make the jump to the top 10 next time. Next time we're doing these rankings. Max Borg, he out of Washington State. He only played one game last year, but I'm going to kind of count that as a scratch. He's likely just a slot receiver. Like he cuts well. He's got very good speed, but he's more impressive as a receiver. So he's probably a slot receiver at the next level. John Emery Jr., he's simply on here just because he's a 5-star recruit. He needs to live up to the hype. Signs didn't look good in the spring game when he couldn't participate because of injury. I don't know. We'll see. And it's not like he'll even get the full workload then. Chris Rodriguez out of Kentucky. This guy, he was the nation's best when it came to running those inside zone type of runs. There at Kentucky, they ran a lot of that, but 41 of his carries led to either a first down or a touchdown. I will say, because he saw a bigger volume this year, I think he seemed a bit more rattled by contact. I don't know if that's because he was taking on more carries, more of a workload, but maybe that's something that'll change. We'll see. He's a big back, so could very well change. And then CJ Verdell out of Oregon. This dude's built like a hoss. He's a hoss back with that size. 5'9", 210. No real vision, though. He just kind of runs full speed at the line of scrimmage, at the offensive line. Doesn't really look for a hole. He just... I will say this, man. This dude's acceleration, top-notch. He gets up to top speed real quick. It's like he grabs snap, bam, right into the line. Like, typically his point of contact, like, happened behind the line of scrimmage. Kind of wild. Master Teague. I get why people like him. He's a big back. He does big back things. He's got really good straight line speed, but anytime I watched him, he has no real, like, moves with the ball in his hands outside of just lowering his helmet. That just seems to be the case to me. And then I got Jotarvious Whitlow. You might remember him. He's a former Auburn recruit. He transferred last year. Season got canceled. Just got a new dog, so my old dog's getting acquainted to her. If you hear the bark in the background, my apologies. But he had a pretty successful career at Auburn, man. In 2 seasons, he ran for over 1,500 yards, 16 touchdowns, 71 forced missed tackles. I always bring up forced missed tackles because it's a big number. That always translates to the NFL. But 9 fumbles, 9 drops over 2 seasons at Auburn. So I want to see big improvement, especially with the significant step down in competition. But what we saw from him last, man, hard hitter runner, but he never really gained too much after first contact. He could turn out a couple of yards, but never too many. Tyler, I'm gonna butcher his name. I'm pretty sure I forgot an L in his name too, but Allgrier? Yeah, maybe I got that. He's intriguing. I need to watch more on him. I've only seen a very small bit. Granted, it's not like his sample size is all that big. He really just got the starting gig last year, but he is an older prospect. He went on a mission trip. Great straight line speed, very good vision, but he was playing behind one of the best offensive lines last year that typically played lesser competition. So there is that. But he did seem to be a very big play threat, just a guy to keep your eye on. And then Tyler Nevins out of San Jose State. Another guy that's kind of a big back that does big back things. Most of his yards, or most yards after, he had the most yards after contact in 2020. And he never eclipsed 700 for that stat. Never eclipsed 700 yards in his career. And I should say he averaged probably the most yards after contact. That's when you take into carry, the minimum being 50 carries last year. Dude eats contact, but his breakaway speed and receiving upside, there really is none. That's why you see him this low on the list. And then, of course, I do have one more, but no reason to make it a whole overlay for him. It's Chris Smith from Louisiana. More so, this guy gets the starting gig after having to play behind Elijah Mitchell and Trey Ragus from Louisiana. So starting job's his. It'll be interesting to see what he does with it. So that's why I got him here at like 21. But that's it for the video. Go ahead, do that YouTube thing. It's always much appreciated, much obliged, and until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.